And let me go straight to Washington, D.C., where KV Subramanian, Executive Director, IMF, is joining us. Mr. Subramanian, really appreciate your time. The Karnataka Chief Minister says that formula to calculate the devolution of tax revenue to states was incorrectly altered by the 15th Finance Commission. What is the truth?
Firstly, Maria, as you mentioned, these are decisions that are taken by the Finance Commission. The members of the Finance Commission, including its chairperson, visit every state, have consultations with every state, understand their needs, and then decide the formula for the allocation. So that's the first point. Second point to keep in mind is that when it comes to the overall expenditures, if states decide to spend their money on freebies, then blaming the center for having their fisc not in order, I don't think is actually proper. And I think in the particular examples that we're talking about, we all know very well why the fisc has been, has gone into distress. In the earlier government, there was no problem. Those 5 guarantees actually not only have they put the fisc in distress, they've also actually stopped capital expenditures. In fact, the Deputy Chief Minister of Karnataka himself actually had mentioned that. So I think these are political posturing. The formula that the Finance Commission uses is very, very, very clear. I think that the last point that I would like to mention here is that the proportion of the state's revenues that come from grants from the center, that are allocated by the Finance Commission is not the entire. It's about, around about anywhere between 15 to 20%. So there is still a large proportion, of revenues that state can get. They actually have excise on petrol, diesel, etc., on alcohol, and so they do have the degrees of freedom to be able to actually generate revenues on their own. So as they say in that, sometimes you need sort of a fall guy to blame, and that's what seems to be the story here.
Tell us, because not just one state, that is Karnataka, there are other states are also saying that the allocation is discriminatory and not transparent. And that is causing a lot of concerns among them. There are protests that are happening by Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka.
So let me, put out some statistics. Let's take 2 states that are not in the south. Let's take Gujarat. For every rupee that Gujarat contributes to, to the kitty, it gets 28 paise back in term, from the center. Take another state, Maharashtra. Again, for every rupee that it contributes, it gets 8 paisa back. This is data, from various budget documents, etc. So, one can ask the question, is there basically discrimination there? No, this is part of the Finance Commission's, process. And I know for a fact that the central government has been adhering to the recommendations of the Finance Commission. The Finance Commission, decides on, on allocations based on a formula where equity, among states is a very important consideration as well. So, the states that you're talking about compared to those, as I gave you the statistics, I think it is absolutely clear that there is basically, this is sort of an unnecessary issue that is being raked up here. I think when in a country like India, with the kind of diversity that we have, there will be differences in economic progress. And in order to ensure that our social fabric remains remains solid, it is important to actually, take other states along, and states that are, economically a little bit more backward will need, bigger grants. For instance, if you look at states like Bihar and Uttar Pradesh, actually, who are, aren't doing as well, actually, they get, a bigger proportion, for every rupee that they contribute in terms of their the revenue, they actually get a higher share. That's because they're actually backward. And I think that is something which I, as an economist, leave the politics aside, would definitely support.
Okay, why is this narrative now being seen? Of course, few months to go for the elections. That issue aside, the fact is that the Finance Commission members are chosen by the center, the government of the day. That is also something that the that the states allege, that they would be doing something, the Finance Commission would be listening to what the center wants.
But Maria, that aspect where this finance commission members are chosen by the center has been true for every finance commission, not just, the recent finance commission. And as for, why is this coming up? I think that is a political question that, I can speculate on. To me, I think the main reason is that in the states that are actually crying, hoarse at this point in time are the states that have actually made, promises on freebies that are completely untenable, and which is what is making their fisc really come under stress, and that is why they're actually crying hoarse. So to me, it basically is a completely political, question. This is not an economic question. I think in the past as well, if you look at, I'm sure there have been, if you go and read history, there must have been states that might have actually expressed this kind of concern. But I can tell you for a fact that having been, be closely associated with this, there is no lack of transparency. There is no lack of process. Absolutely, due process is followed. Whatever the recommendations of the Finance Commission are, is what is followed. And I gave you data of states that are, which actually can sort of cry even hoarser compared to some other states. I mean, I gave you data for Gujarat. I gave you data for Maharashtra as well. So I think, the data clearly suggests that this is just empty rhetoric.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, KV Subramanian. Appreciate your time.